Hello. Welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is Common IELTS Speaking Mistakes.
It's fantastic to be here. And this is, it's a topic that honestly keeps a lot of candidates up at night.
Oh, I can imagine. You know, whenever I even hear the phrase IELTS speaking section, my palms get a little sweaty.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a test. It feels more like a high-stakes interrogation. You're in this small room, sitting across from a stranger who's just holding a clipboard, like judging every single syllable that comes out of your mouth. It's so intense.
It really does feel that way, doesn't it? That face-to-face element, it adds this whole layer of psychological pressure that, you just don't get with a computer-based exam.
Right.
But it helps to put it in context. It's actually quite short, usually only between 11 and 14 minutes.
That's it. It feels like an eternity when you're in there.
It does, because it's an intense 11 to 14 minutes. And it's not just about your raw English level, it's really about performance under pressure.
That is such a crucial distinction. I know so many people who are brilliant at English, over a beer or something, but they just crumble when that spotlight is on.
Yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive is, I think, pretty specific. We want to help you take your performance from average to outstanding by identifying the specific pitfalls that trip people up. We're not just talking grammar rules here. We're talking strategy.
Spot on. And before we can even get into the mistakes, we have to understand the rules of the game. The examiner isn't just listening for a general vibe or, deciding if they like your personality. They're grading you on 4 very, very rigid criteria.
Okay, let's unpack those, because I think a lot of people just assume it's good English versus bad English.
Yeah.
What are we actually being scored on?
Right. Okay. So there are 4 pillars, and each one is worth 25% of your score. First, you've got fluency and coherence.
Okay, and that's not just about speed.
Not at all. It's how smooth your speech is, and this is crucial. Does it make logical sense? Are you connecting your ideas properly?
Got it. What's next?
Second is lexical resource, which is just the academic term for vocabulary.
Right, big words.
Well, not just big words. It's knowing how to use them correctly in context. Third is grammatical range and accuracy. So can you use complex sentences and, do you get the grammar right? And then finally, pronunciation.
And for most of our listeners, the big goal is hitting that coveted band 7 or higher.
That's the ticket. And the frustrating part is that mistakes in any one of those 4 areas can really drag your score down. But the good news is, once you know what the traps are, they're entirely avoidable.
So let's jump right in. The test starts with part 1, right? The introduction or interview.
Yep.
The examiner asks you about familiar things, your home, your work, hobbies. It feels on the surface like a pretty casual chat.
And that is absolutely where the first trap lies. We call this the warm-up trap.
Warm-up trap. I like that.
Because it feels so casual, candidates treat it too casually. They let their guard down, but in the wrong way.
Meaning they stop trying to perform or showcase their English?
Indeed. Which leads us straight to mistake number 1 in part 1, the minimalist answer. This is the classic yes-no response.
Okay, let's role play this. I'm the candidate, you're the examiner. Ask me a standard part 1 question.
Okay. Do you like your hometown?
Yes. But wait. I answered the question. It's the truth. What's the problem?
It is truthful, I'll give you that. But for the IELTS exam, it's a disaster.
Disaster.
A total disaster. Remember, the examiner is there to harvest a sample of your English. If you just say one word, you're giving them 0 evidence of your ability. They can't grade silence.
I see. So it's not about being efficient.
Not at all. People do it because of nerves, or maybe they think, I answered the question, let's move on. But in this test, silence is your enemy. You need to view every single question as an opportunity.
An opportunity to show off. So we actually need to be a little bit unnatural.
In a way, yes. We recommend the PE method to fix this.
The P method.
PEE. Point, explain, example.
Okay, let's try that again. Same question.
Do you like your hometown?
Okay, here we go. Point. Yes, I absolutely love my hometown. Explain. It's a really bustling city with vibrant markets and this unique energy you don't find everywhere else. Example, for instance, just everyday life there is so exciting because there's always some kind of festival or a street food event happening.
See the difference?
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
You went from a grunt to a full, complex paragraph. You showed off vocabulary like bustling, vibrant, unique energy. You used connecting words like for instance. You just turned a band 4 answer into a band 7 answer right there.
And it really didn't take that much more effort. I just had to remember to to elaborate.
That's it. Just aim for 2 or 3 sentences. You're turning a dead-end answer into a showcase.
Okay, but here's the flip side. Sometimes people want to elaborate, but then they get stuck. Which brings us to mistake number 2, the filler epidemic.
Ah, yes.
We're talking about, all of those.
This is a really common issue. Now, look, some fillers are natural. I mean, even native speakers use them when they're thinking. But in a test environment, when it's excessive, it signals to the examiner that you're struggling to find the language. It just hammers your fluency score.
So why does it happen so much more in the test than in real life?
It's often a translation issue. Your brain is thinking in your native language. Let's say you're trying to find the word pollution.
Okay.
Your brain is scanning, right? And while it's scanning, your mouth is afraid of the silence, so it just starts making noise. The dirty air thing.
It's like the little buffering wheel on a YouTube video. You're buffering out loud.
That's a perfect analogy. And the strategy here is to learn to embrace the power of the pause.
Wait, but you just said silence is the enemy.
Ah, dead air, because you have nothing to say is the enemy.
A thinking pause? That's a power move.
Okay, so what's the difference? How can the examiner tell?
A silent pause shows control. It shows you're actually gathering your thoughts. But filling that silence with an shows panic. It is so much better to just take a breath, think for a second or two, and then speak clearly. The examiner will respect a thoughtful pause. They'll penalize a nervous stutter.
Yeah, it's really reassuring. It makes you feel thoughtful instead of confused. Okay, now, mistake number 3 is one I think a lot of people fall into because they're trying to be too prepared. The robot.
Memorized answer.
Yes, but let me play devil's advocate here. Why isn't this a good strategy? If I know they're probably going to ask about my job, why shouldn't I write out a perfect, grammatically complex paragraph and just recite it? Wouldn't that guarantee a high score?
It sounds safe on paper, but it's incredibly risky. For 2 big reasons. First, examiners do this all day, every day. They are trained to spot scripts. And the biggest giveaway is the intonation.
Your voice changes.
Completely. When you speak naturally, your voice rises and falls. It has a rhythm. When you recite something from memory, your voice just flattens out. It becomes a drone. It loses all the natural music of communication.
And as soon as they hear that reading voice,
they stop listening to your content and start marking you down.
And I'm guessing the second risk is if the question isn't exactly what you prepared for.
You've got it. That's the trap. You might memorize this amazing answer for, tell me about your family. But what if the examiner asks, describe your relationship with your siblings?
Right.
And you launch into your generic script, my family consists of 4 members. It's just so obvious you're not answering the specific question. You're just pressing play on a recording.
So the fix isn't to memorize sentences, but to memorize what? Ideas.
Memorize ideas and key vocabulary chunks, little building blocks. If you work in a busy office, you can have phrases like challenging environment, fast pace, or team collaboration ready to go.
Okay.
But you assemble the sentence in the moment. That way it stays authentic.
Got it. Flexible building blocks, not rigid scripts.
Yeah.
Now, mistake number 4 in part 1 is about what you're doing when you're not even speaking, the nonverbal disconnect.
This is a really interesting one because, strictly speaking, body language isn't one of the 4 scoring criteria. You don't get points for eye contact on the rubric.
It matters.
It matters for the perception of fluency. If you're staring at the floor or fidgeting or just looking terrified, it subconsciously tells the examiner that you're struggling. It creates this atmosphere of tension in the room.
Right. It makes them feel like they're pulling teeth.
Couldn't agree more. Whereas smiling, nodding, making eye contact, it makes you seem engaged and confident. It mimics a natural conversation. And here's a little hack. Acting confident can actually make you feel more confident.
The old fake it till you make it.
Sort of, yeah. If you smile, your brain actually thinks, oh, we must be safe. We're having a nice chat. And it can lower your stress levels.
Okay, so part 1 is the warm-up. Don't be too short, don't be a robot, and try to smile. Now let's move to the scary part. Section 2. Part 2, the long turn.
The monologue.
You get a cue card, you've got 1 minute to prepare, and then you have to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. It's the solo spotlight.
And this is often the most dreaded part for candidates. There's no back and forth to save you. It's just you and the silence.
Which leads right into mistake number 1 here, time management failures. I feel like the panic starts in that 1 minute prep time. You just stare at the paper, the clock is ticking, and your mind goes completely blank.
And that is exactly what we need to avoid. That 1 minute is gold. You have to use it strategically. The biggest mistake people make is trying to write full sentences. You just don't have the time.
So let's walk through this. Let's say I get a card that says, describe a gift you received that was special to you. The timer starts. What am I writing down?
You're writing bullet points, keywords only. You need a map for your talk. So you'd write maybe intro, description, feeling, why special.
Okay.
Then under description, maybe you write watch, gold, grandfather. Under feeling, you write surprised, grateful, emotional.
So you're basically building a skeleton.
A skeleton, exactly. If you just start talking without that map, you'll either run out of things to say in 40 seconds, which is a penalty, or you'll just ramble and get lost until the examiner has to cut you off.
Okay, so we've got our map, but then comes mistake number 2, the parrot effect. This is when people stick way too closely to the prompts on the cue card, isn't it?
Yes. The card will usually have these little sub-prompts like, what is it? When did you get it? Who gave it to you? And explain why you liked it. The mistake is treating these like a grocery list you have to rush through.
So they end up saying something like, the gift was a watch. I got it last year. My dad gave it to me. I liked it because it was nice.
And then they stop and they look at the examiner and realize they've only spoken for like 27s.
That is the absolute nightmare scenario.
And it's boring. It shows very limited language. You have to expand creatively.
Yeah.
If the prompt asks, explain why, don't just say because it's fun. Elaborate. Talk about how it reduces your stress or how it reminds you of a special memory.
Deepen the answer. Tell the story behind the watch. It wasn't just any watch. It was my grandfather's watch, which was passed down through the generations.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
That opens up the past perfect tense, emotional vocabulary, cultural context. Suddenly you have so much more to say.
That connects pretty well to mistake number 3, which is the choppy narrative.
Yeah.
This is all about coherence.
Yes, we hear this a lot. I got the watch. It was gold. I was happy. My dad smiled. It's so robotic. It just jumps from one fact to another with no bridges in between.
It's like you're driving a car, but you're not using your turn signals. The passenger, in this case the examiner, is terrified because they have no idea where you're turning next.
That is a brilliant analogy. You have to use your turn signals, and those are your linking words. Furthermore, in contrast, what struck me immediately was,
ooh, I like that one. It sounds so sophisticated, but it's actually really easy to use.
and it signals to the examiner, hey, pay attention, an important detail is coming. It guides them through your story.
Now, mistake number 4 is vocabulary stagnation. Basically using the same safe words over and over.
Good, bad, nice, happy. If you describe everything in your 2-minute talk as good, you're pretty much capping your score at a band 6. You have to paraphrase.
But what if you just forget the word? What if I'm talking about the environment and I completely blank on the word ecosystem? Do I just freeze?
No, absolutely not. That is the beauty of paraphrasing. You describe the function of the thing. You could say the complex web of life that protects the earth.
You know, that actually sounds more poetic than just saying ecosystem.
It does, and it shows real communicative competence. You didn't let one missing word stop you. You should also be using synonyms. Instead of saying gift 5 times, you can say present, token, gesture.
Okay, final mistake for part 2, number 5. Tense confusion. This is a big one because you're usually telling a story about something that happened in the past.
Right, but so many candidates slip into the present tense. Last year, I go to the concert.
When it should be, I went. It seems so simple, but under pressure, I guess grammar is the first thing to fly out the window.
It is, and the fix here is to practice what we call storytelling mode. When you tell a story in your native language, you naturally mix tenses all the time. You use the past for what happened. I went to the concert. Maybe the past continuous to set the scene. The sun was shining.
And maybe even conditionals. If I hadn't gone, I would have missed it.
Absolutely. That mix of tenses is exactly what the examiner is looking for in a high-scoring candidate. It shows you have real mastery over the timeline of your story.
Okay, so you've survived the monologue. You didn't faint. Now you move on to section 3, the discussion.
And this is where the difficulty really spikes.
Because it's no longer about you, right?
Yeah,
It shifts to these big abstract ideas.
correct. We move from describe a book you read to something like, how has technology changed education globally? Or is reading becoming obsolete in the digital age?
Wow, okay. Heavy stuff. So mistake number 1 here would be giving superficial opinions.
This is when candidates just give a short agreement with no justification. Yes, tech is good.
That's it.
That's it, and it's nowhere near enough. You need to use the Peel method here. Point, explain, example, link. You have to justify your opinion.
Okay, let's do a live fix. I'll give you a bad answer, you give me the Band-Aid version. Question: do you think technology is helping students learn better?
My bad answer. Yes, I think computers are very useful for students.
Okay, that's functional, but it's very basic. Here's a better version using Peel. Point: I would argue that technology has completely revolutionized education, explain, primarily by democratizing access to information. Example: for example, a student in a remote village can now access lectures from top universities like Harvard or Oxford. Link. So, in that sense, it really helps to bridge the gap between different social classes.
Wow. Okay. Democratizing access bridges the gap. That's a Band 7 plus answer right there.
It's got depth. It explores the why, not just the what.
But there's a danger in having these strong opinions, isn't there? That leads to mistake number 2, the all or nothing trap. Overgeneralizing, making these huge, extreme statements like, all technology is bad, or everyone uses the internet.
Why is that a problem? I mean, a lot of people do use the internet.
But not everyone. And using those absolutes shows a lack of critical thinking. Examiners love to hear nuance. They want to hear modals.
Modals, like?
Words like might, could, tends to, in many cases, largely. Instead of saying technology destroys social skills, which is a massive claim, you'd say technology could potentially hinder the development of face-to-face social skills in certain contexts.
That sounds so much more academic and thoughtful. It sounds like you're actually weighing the evidence.
It creates a balanced argument, and that's what Part 3 is all about, discussing complex ideas, not just stating simplistic facts.
Mistake number 3 in Part 3 is about vocabulary and depth again. You can't just use the same words you use to describe your hobbies.
No, you really can't. You're talking about complex topics like globalization, inequality, environmental ethics. You need the vocabulary to match. If you don't know words like cultural homogenization or wealth disparity, you'll struggle to express complex thoughts.
Okay, define cultural homogenization for us real quick.
It's the idea that local, unique cultures are being sort of wiped out and replaced by a single global culture, like everyone drinking the same coffee and watching the same movies.
Got it. So if you can drop a phrase like that into the test, the examiner definitely takes notice.
Oh, they certainly do. It shows that you read, you listen, and you can handle these high-level concepts.
And finally, for Part 3, mistake number 4, getting lost or going off on a tangent.
Yeah, sometimes a candidate will just veer completely off topic, or worse, get angry about a controversial subject without really backing it up.
Or maybe they just don't understand the question. I mean, some of these questions can be pretty weird.
That happens. The mistake is guessing what it means. If you don't understand, don't just start talking about something else. It's much better to politely ask, could you repeat that? Or could you rephrase that, please?
And that's allowed. I always thought asking for help would lower your score.
It is perfectly allowed, and it's so much better than the alternative. It's better to ask for clarification and give a relevant answer than to guess and give an irrelevant one. It shows you're engaged in the communication.
Okay, we've covered the 3 parts, but there are some mistakes that they haunt you through the entire test. Let's talk about Section 4. These overarching mistakes. First up, grammar gaffes.
We sometimes call these fossilized errors. These are mistakes that a learner makes so often they don't even hear them anymore.
Like what? What are the common ones?
Articles are a nightmare for many learners, saying, I live in the Dhaka. It should just be, I live in Dhaka.
Right. Or subject-verb agreement. I hear this one a lot. People is changing.
When it should be, people are changing. Now, these seem minor, but if you make them in every single sentence, it creates a pattern. It tells the examiner that you haven't really mastered the basics.
Then there are vocabulary vexations. I love this one. The very problem.
Please stop saying very, very good, very bad, very nice. It's lazy.
So what should we use instead?
Use intensifiers, words like extremely, profoundly, exceptionally, or even better, use stronger adjectives. Instead of very big, say massive, colossal, or gigantic.
Colossal. That's a good one. What about idioms? I feel like everyone says you need to use idioms to get a band 7.
You do, but there's a huge trap here. If you just force an idiom in where it doesn't belong, it sounds awful. I've literally heard students answer, how are you today? With, it's raining cats and dogs.
No way. Seriously.
Yes, because they memorized it and just threw it out there. You should only use idioms like hit the nail on the head, or once in a blue moon if they fit the context perfectly and naturally.
Now, let's talk about pronunciation priorities. I think a lot of people get really worried about their accent. They think they need to sound perfectly British or American.
And that's a huge misconception. You do not need a native accent. What you need is clarity. The examiner has to be able to understand you without effort.
Okay.
And the biggest killer of clarity isn't usually individual sounds, it's word stress.
Can you break that down for us?
English is what's called a stress-timed language. That means some syllables are long and loud, and others are short and quiet. Many other languages are syllable-timed, where every syllable gets the same length, like a machine gun. Da-da-da-da-da.
So if you bring that machine gun rhythm to English, it just sounds robotic.
It sounds worse than robotic. It sounds confusing. If you say photography, I understand you. If you say photography, putting the stress on the first syllable, my brain has to work to figure out what you mean.
Yeah, photography. It takes a second to process that.
Exactly. Misplacing the stress messes with the whole rhythm of the sentence, and it confuses the listener. You have to learn the music of the language, not just the words.
And lastly, under these overarching mistakes, we have the psychological pitfalls,
Anxiety and overthinking.
the fear of making a mistake.
And here is a really crucial tip. If you make a minor grammar error, let's say you say he go instead of he went, just keep going. Do not stop and correct yourself mid-sentence.
Really? That
What-
feels
what-
so counterintuitive. I'd want to show them that I know the right answer.
But if you stop to fix it, you break your fluency. You completely ruin the flow, and you draw this giant red circle around the mistake. If you just keep talking, the examiner might even miss it, or they'll just see it as a minor slip. But if you correct it, you're confirming it was an error, and you're hurting your fluency score. Flow is king.
That's such a valuable insight. Prioritize the flow over the micromanagement.
Always.
Okay, we've covered a ton of theory. Let's bring this down to earth with section 5. Real-world examples. I want to hear about some real students who face these issues.
Okay, let's talk about a student we'll call Sarah. Sarah was smart, but she was terrified of part 1. She took that robot approach we talked about. She had memorized answers for everything, her job, her family, her hometown.
She wanted to be safe.
She did. But she went into the exam, and the examiner asked her a slightly unexpected question about her hobbies, specifically about collecting things. She hadn't scripted that.
And what happened?
She completely froze. Because her brain was in recitation mode, it couldn't switch over to thinking mode. She panicked, she stammered, and she gave a one-word answer. Her score was a 5.5.
Ouch. That's going to hurt.
It did, but she fixed it. She threw away all the scripts. She started practicing improvisation, just picking random topics and talking about them for 2 minutes while she was like cooking or driving her car.
Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable?
That's the one. The next time she took the test, band 7.0, just by dropping the scripts and learning to be present in the conversation.
That's a great turnaround. What about the opposite problem, the speed demons?
That was Ahmed. Ahmed had fantastic vocabulary, but he spoke at 1,000,000 miles an hour. He had this idea that fast equals fluent.
Which a lot of people think.
A lot of people do, but he was speaking so fast that he was swallowing his vowels and skipping the ends of his words. It was almost unintelligible. The examiner was just hearing noise.
So what was the fix?
His feedback was just to slow down. He started focusing on enunciating every single sound. He actually spoke fewer words per minute, but he was understood more. He jumped all the way to a band 8.
That's incredible. It's about clarity, not velocity.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who want to be the next Ahmed or Sarah, what's the training regimen?
First thing is consistency, daily practice. You have to spend maybe 30 minutes a day just speaking on random topics. You can find lists of IELTS questions all over the internet.
And you have to record yourself, right?
Oh, it's mandatory. You have to record yourself, and then you have to listen back. You'll hear the fillers. You'll hear the ums and the very goods. I know it's painful to listen to your own voice, but it is the absolute fastest way to improve.
And for vocabulary building.
Keep a journal. Aim for maybe 10 new words a day, but don't just write the word down. You have to write it in a sentence. Context is everything.
And what about building up stamina for the test?
Full mock tests. The test is only 14 minutes, but it's exhausting because of the adrenaline. You need to build the mental stamina to stay sharp and focused for that entire duration without zoning out at the end.
Okay, before we wrap up, can you give us a few expert tips for the real high achievers? The people aiming for a band 7.5 or 8.
Okay, for the high flyers. First, use discourse markers fluidly. Phrases like on the one hand, conversely, from a different perspective. These signposts show a very high level of organization in your thought.
What about adding some personality? Humor.
Yes, if you can. If you can incorporate a little bit of humor or a personal anecdote naturally, It works wonders. It breaks the ice. I mean, if you can make the examiner genuinely smile, you're winning. It shows you're so comfortable with the language that you can play with it.
And don't just force the big words in.
That's a great point. Vary your vocabulary density. Don't try to sound like a walking dictionary in every single sentence. It just sounds unnatural. Use a mix of simple, clear language and then drop in those sophisticated terms where they're really appropriate.
This has been incredibly comprehensive. Let's head to the outro and tie this all together.
Let's do it.
So if we boil this all down, it seems like the IELTS speaking test isn't about being a walking encyclopedia or having a perfect British accent. It's just about communication.
It's a conversation with the world. At the end of the day, it's about connecting with another person.
We've looked at the whole journey. Part 1, it was the chat, so don't be too brief, don't be a robot. Part 2 is the story, give it structure, manage your time, and use those linking words like turn signals on a car. And Part 3 is the debate. Go deep, show some nuance, and always justify your opinions.
And please remember, errors are not failures. They're learning opportunities. Every time you catch yourself about to say very good and you change it to excellent, that's a little win. The goal here is confident fluency, not robotic perfection.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. We really hope you feel a lot more prepared to go in and tackle that speaking test. And end of this episode must mention like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.
Good luck, everyone. Speak on.